My sister pushed me down the stairs. My parents defended her, but years later I made them beg to enter the life they tried to destroy. I'm Riley, 28 years old, living in Austin, Texas. After nearly 2 years of treatments, hope, and disappointment repeating like a cruel cycle, my husband Marcus and I finally held hands and stepped past the invisible shadow of infertility. When that pregnancy test showed 2 lines, I stood frozen in the bathroom for almost 5 minutes. My hands were trembling, my heart racing, and before I knew it, tears were streaming down my face. This baby means everything to us. It's the result of countless days of patience, silent pain in clinic rooms, and the answer to all those nights I wondered if I still had the strength to hope. But alongside the happiness was an ever-present fear. I had lost 2 babies before. That kind of loss feels like being torn apart piece by piece, and I swore to myself I wouldn't let it happen again. This time we chose silence. No social media posts, no sharing with friends, not even my parents or my sister. Victoria knew a thing. Some might call me selfish or overly cautious, but they don't understand that sometimes protecting yourself means creating a space where hope can breathe, untouched by expectations, or the heartbreak of having to announce yet another loss. My family is the typical loud, boisterous American type. My parents, the Hendersons, find any excuse to throw a party. Even if the neighbor's dog learns to shake hands, that's reason enough to invite the whole block for a celebration. And Victoria, she's a story of her own. 3 years younger than me, beautiful, ambitious, living by the motto, "The world is my stage." Last year, she nearly became the perfect bride with a grand wedding planned at a Miami resort. But the night before, her charming fiancé slept with a maid of honor. Victoria found out while trying on her expensive wedding gown one last time. The next day, instead of walking down the aisle, she collapsed on the living room floor, surrounded by untouched wedding gifts, crying as if the world had ended. We all tried to pull her back up, but from that day, Victoria changed. Her smile grew sharper, her tone colder, and every ounce of her energy was funneled into her career. So, when Victoria was promoted to department director at the city's largest financial firm, she immediately planned a lavish party. My parents called me 3 times in one morning, their voices buzzing with excitement as if she had just won an Olympic gold medal. "Riley, you have to be there. This is a big moment for your sister. The whole family's counting on you," my mother said, every word hitting me with a familiar but heavy weight. I knew I couldn't keep saying no, but the more they insisted, the more anxious I became. My belly wasn't too obvious yet, but the signs were harder to hide each day. The last thing I wanted was to overshadow Victoria's moment, having the attention shift from her promotion to whispers of, "When are you due and how far along are you?" That would kill her joy instantly. Marcus took my hand, gentle but firm. "Go, Riley. We can keep this secret a little longer. Let her have her night." I nodded, but deep inside the unease simmered like a lingering fever. That evening, the Austin sky hung low and heavy, as if warning me of what was to come. I stood before the mirror, adjusting a flowing olive green maxi dress, hoping the soft fabric would conceal the growing curve of my belly. A light cardigan layered on top, a touch of careful makeup to soften my puffiness, every detail meticulously planned, all to ensure tonight would be Victoria's, not mine. Marcus watched me from the bedroom doorway, his eyes a mix of tenderness and worry. "You okay?" he asked softly, his voice pulling me back to the present. "I'm fine." I forced a smile, more to convince myself than to reassure him. The party was held at a rooftop restaurant on South Congress Street, a place Victoria always called the city's view for winners. The space shimmered with fairy lights, glasses of wine sparkling, and lively laughter echoing right from the entrance. Victoria truly knew how to make herself the center of attention. "Riley!" Her voice rang out from across the room, high-pitched and excited. She walked over and wrapped me in a hug. "I thought you'd use work as an excuse to skip my party again." I gently squeezed her shoulders, smiling. "Today is your big day. How could I miss it?" For a brief moment, Victoria's eyes gleamed with satisfaction, but I also caught the subtle glance of scrutiny at the corner of her eyes. Still, she said nothing more and quickly pulled me into the crowd where glasses were raised in celebration. Throughout the evening, I stayed within my safe zone, moving slowly, choosing discreet corners, avoiding tight hugs or overly curious stares. Marcus kept a careful distance, close enough to watch over me, but discreet enough not to draw attention. I thought I was doing a decent job until I ran into Aunt Beth. Aunt Beth, my dad's sister, was a sharp and outspoken woman in her 50s, sometimes blunt to the point of being tactless. In the family, she was famous for her so-called sixth sense, reading people's faces like open books. Tonight, that talent would be my downfall. "Riley, you've filled out, haven't you?" She tilted her head, narrowing her eyes as she examined me. "But not the usual weight gain. Your skin's glowing, your eyes are sparkling. Come on, tell me, what are you hiding under, that flowy dress?" I froze, my fingers tightening around my glass of lemonade. A dozen ways to deflect popped into my head, but before I could say a word, Aunt Beth's hand lightly touched my stomach. Her eyes widened for a few seconds. Then, without missing a beat, she burst out laughing. "Oh my goodness, Riley, I knew it! Congratulations, sweetheart. This should have been announced at the start of the party." My face burned hot. I quickly grabbed her hand, lowering my voice. "Aunt Beth, please keep this to yourself. Tonight is Victoria's night. I don't want to take that away from her, but telling Aunt Beth that was like asking the wind to stop blowing. She simply patted my cheek, grinning ear to ear. "Honey, the family's been waiting for this longer than the day Marcus proposed. Don't be selfish and keep this joy all to yourself." I watched helplessly as Aunt Beth dove into the crowd, my heart pounding so loud it drowned out the music. And then the moment I dreaded came crashing down. "Everyone, may I have your attention for just a moment?" Aunt Beth's voice boomed through the microphone, slicing through the lively atmosphere. "I have some wonderful news to share. Riley, where are you, darling?" All eyes turned toward me. I felt every stare, every whisper, and among them Victoria's cold, piercing gaze hit me like a blade straight to the chest. "My beloved niece, Riley, is expecting a baby," Aunt Beth announced proudly, as if reading out lottery numbers. For a brief second, the room held its breath. Then an explosion of applause, cheers, and congratulations swept over me. Arms wrapped around me, questions flew, bright eyes shining with excitement. Everything I had tried so hard to avoid now crashed down on me all at once. Marcus's hand found mine, gripping it tightly, his eyes filled with worry and sympathy. But what weighed on me the most was seeing Victoria standing alone in the corner, her glass of red wine tilted slightly, the liquid glistening like spilled blood under the warm lights, her smile twisted into something heartbreakingly brittle. I knew from that very moment the party was no longer hers. I'd barely managed to break free from the circle of relatives showering me with congratulations when I saw Victoria slip out to the balcony. The wine in her hand tilted precariously, a dark red streak glistening under the soft glow. No one needed to tell me what to do. I knew I had to follow her. "Give me a moment, Marcus," I whispered, weaving my way through the crowd down the hallway leading outside. The glass door slid open, greeting me with a sharp gust of cold air, a stark contrast to the warmth inside. Victoria stood there, her hand resting on the railing, eyes gazing into the distance where Austin's flickering lights danced. Hearing my footsteps, she spoke first, her voice raspy. "So, you finally found a way to make everyone talk about you, even on my night." I took a deep breath, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Victoria, this isn't because of me. I told Aunt Beth not to say anything. You know very well I didn't want to steal your moment." "Oh, really?" She let out a dry laugh, turning to face me, her eyes glinting with a cold sharpness. "You wore that oversized dress, lurking in the corner like you were waiting for someone to notice your little secret. Don't play innocent with me, Riley. I know you too well." Her words sliced through me like a cold blade. "What are you trying to say? You think I wanted this to happen? You've always been this way." Victoria stepped closer, her voice lowering but cutting like a razor. "You got married before me. You're always the one Mom praises for being mature, thoughtful, and now, just when I'm about to have my big moment as a bride, you conveniently get pregnant. How convenient." I stood frozen. My hands dropped to my sides, my heart crushed by the cruelty of the sister I had always loved. "Victoria, you're crossing a line. You know how hard Marcus and I have tried. I've lost 2 babies before." My voice trembled, the painful memories hitting me like a punch to the chest. "Oh, I know. Lost too, didn't you? Victoria sneered, her eyes flashing with venom. So, this time you have to make extra sure, right? Or maybe you're just afraid of failing again, so you want the whole world to know. Just in case it ends badly, you'll have their pity ready. I stood there stunned. Each word felt like a slap to the face. The air thickened, anger rising like waves crashing in my chest. You really said that, Victoria? I gasped, struggling to keep my fury in check. Do you remember who sat with you all night after that bastard ditched you before your wedding? Who packed every wedding gift? Who called every vendor to cancel just so you wouldn't have to face more pain? Victoria clenched her fists, nails digging into her pale skin, but her glare never wavered. You think that erases the fact that I've always been your shadow? I've lived my whole life being compared to you, Riley, the perfect daughter. Me? I'm just the failure they gossip about whenever there's nothing better to say. I bit my lip until I tasted blood, my hand instinctively resting on my belly, shielding the fragile life within. Victoria, I never wanted to compete with you. Never. But if you choose to hate me just because I'm happy, that's your choice, not my fault. My words hung in the air. Victoria's lips pressed into a thin line, her eyes red but unyielding. You can fake being noble to everyone else, but not to me, Riley. She turned sharply, the clack of her heels echoing on the cold stone floor. Just remember this. I lost everything tonight. You got your perfect announcement. Congratulations, you win. Happy now? I didn't follow her. The wind blew past, carrying her bitter words away. In that moment, all I saw was a deeply wounded Victoria, clinging to her resentment as if it were the only thing keeping her afloat. But this time, I couldn't carry her burdens anymore. I stood there for a long while after Victoria left, the cold seeping through my thin jacket making me shiver. The anger was gone. The sadness, too. All that remained was an eerie emptiness, like something irreparably broken between us. When I returned inside, the party had lost much of its buzz. Some guests had already left, while others had moved to the upstairs lounge. Marcus spotted me immediately, hurrying over, his eyes scanning my face as if trying to decipher my thoughts. Are you okay? He asked, his hand gently resting on my back. Can we leave early? I whispered, not wanting to stay another minute. He nodded, wrapping his arm around me as he guided me upstairs to retrieve our coats and bags. Unfortunately, the coat room was tucked away at the far end of the second-floor hallway. A peculiar design choice by the restaurant, but at that moment I just wanted to grab our things and leave. Marcus went ahead to call for the car, leaving me alone in the room. As I reached into the closet for my coat, I heard heavy footsteps behind me. Turning around, I saw Victoria staggering slightly, still clutching her half-empty glass of wine. We're not done talking. Her voice was slurred, her eyes bloodshot with alcohol and something far more toxic. I exhaled slowly, steadying myself. Victoria, you're drunk. Go home. Get some rest. She stepped closer, her glare sharp as a blade. You always get everything, don't you? Always the one they cheer for. Always the golden child. And me, I'm just the joke. Tonight was supposed to be mine. I didn't take anything from you, I replied, gripping my coat tightly. I never wanted to be the center of attention tonight, Victoria scoffed. Then prove it. Prove you're not pregnant. If you really didn't want the spotlight, why pretend otherwise? Before I could grasp what she meant, a sudden forceful shove to my chest sent me staggering. The carpet beneath my feet was slick, my hands flailing reflexively, reaching for the nearby doorframe. But I missed. I fell. The sensation of falling felt endless. My heart clenched and instinctively I curled into myself, arms cradling my belly. It all happened within mere seconds, yet felt agonizingly slow. My back slammed against the edge of the staircase before I continued sliding down the cold, hard wooden steps. I threw out my hand to break the fall, but a sharp crack echoed in my head, followed by a blinding pain that blurred my vision. I crumbled at the bottom of the stairs. I lay trembling, my breath ragged, my wrist numb with searing pain. For a moment, no one reacted. Then, somewhere distant, Marcus's panicked voice pierced through the haze. Riley, are you okay? I could only whisper one desperate plea before darkness swallowed me whole. Save the baby, Marcus. Our baby. I don't remember what happened next. The wail of ambulance sirens, flashing lights, hurried footsteps, and someone screaming, probably Marcus, all melted into a swirl of pain as I drifted into a void. I woke up in a hospital room, my wrist encased in a heavy cast, the other arm hooked to enforce the stark white ceiling lights made me squint. Marcus sat beside me, head buried in his hands, looking like he'd aged a decade. I croaked his name, my voice rough as if dragged up from hell. He shot up, eyes bloodshot, but they lit up with profound relief when he saw me awake. "You're okay, you're awake." He grabbed my good hand tightly, careful to avoid my broken wrist. "The doctor said you fractured your radius. You'll need a cast for 6 weeks, but most importantly," he hesitated, then continued, "the baby's fine. They did an ultrasound, the heartbeat is strong. We didn't lose the baby, Riley." I broke down in tears. The physical pain was nothing compared to the suffocating fear of losing my child again. I had escaped a nightmare, but deep down, I knew the real nightmare had only just begun. In the days that followed, my world shrank to the sterile white of hospital walls, the sharp scent of antiseptic, the rhythmic beep of heart monitors, the weight of my casted left wrist. Yet despite it all, I was lucky. Our baby was safe. I thought after everything, Victoria would at least have the decency to stay away, but instead it was my parents who showed up first. That afternoon, just as Marcus had stepped out to grab some snacks, the hospital room door swung open. My father, Douglas Henderson, entered with his usual stern demeanor, followed by my mother, Linda, her eyes puffy, but her gaze chillingly cold. "Riley, we need to talk." I clutched the blanket over my belly, the throbbing in my wrist a stark reminder that I couldn't afford to be weak now. "I'm listening. What do you want to say?" My mother spoke first, her voice pleading but laced with reproach about that night. "Victoria told us everything. She had too much to drink, lost control. No one wanted things to end up like this, Riley." I let out a dry, hollow laugh. "Lost control? Are you talking about the shove that nearly killed my child? Or was it just her little impulse to test if I was faking my pregnancy?" My father's frown deepened, his voice lowering. "Riley, no one denies Victoria was wrong. But she's your sister, your blood. Are you really going to drag this out to court? Our family can't survive a scandal like this." Each word, "our family," rang hollow, a flimsy excuse to justify the inexcusable. "What about me, Dad? Am I not part of this family?" "You are blowing this out of proportion," my mother cut in, gripping her purse tightly. "Victoria isn't a bad person. She's been going through a lot. You know that it was a moment of recklessness. Are you going to ruin her career over one mistake?" At that moment, Marcus returned, sandwich box in hand, his expression darkening as he took in the scene. "I believe I should be part of this conversation," Marcus said, his voice calm but weighty. "Riley nearly lost her life because of her sister, and our unborn child went through a trauma none of you seem to care about. All I hear from you two is family and Victoria's career. What about Riley? Who's standing up for her?" The room grew heavy, the silence thick enough to cut through. My father crossed his arms, his gaze sharp. "We acknowledge the consequences, but as family, Marcus, we should know when to yield, when to save face. Have you considered the fallout from a lawsuit?" "Don't lecture me about morals," Marcus shot back, unflinching. "Victoria nearly killed my wife. She must face legal consequences, not just a few scoldings before going back to life as usual." My mother collapsed onto a chair, burying her face in her hands, sobbing. "Riley, she's your sister. Can you really be this heartless? If you press charges, you'll destroy this family." I pressed my lips together, the bitterness rising like bile. "I'm not destroying anything, Mom. Victoria made her choice when she pushed me down those stairs." But my father wasn't done. His voice dropped, each word cold as steel. "Riley, if you decide to press charges against Victoria, prepare yourself. Your mother and I will have nothing more to say to you." I was no longer surprised. That sentence merely confirmed what I had sensed all along. In my parents' eyes, Victoria was always the one worth protecting, while I, even as the victim, was expected to stay silent. Marcus took my hand, giving it a firm squeeze, a quiet reminder. "I'm with you always." I took a deep breath. The pain in my wrist, in my abdomen, and deeper still, the wound carved by my own family, melded into an eerie calm. "I'm going to press charges against Victoria," I said clearly, each word slicing through the heavy air. Not out of hatred, but because I need to protect myself and protect my child. My father clenched his jaw. My mother sobbed louder. But this time, I didn't feel hurt. They chose Victoria. I chose what's right. 3 days after my parents left the hospital room, my lawsuit was officially filed with the Austin City Court. Signing those documents didn't feel like I had imagined. There was no satisfaction, no triumph, just a crushing weight, but also for the first time a sense of standing up for myself fully. "You did nothing wrong, Riley." Marcus gave my hand a gentle squeeze as we exited the lawyer's office. "The truth can be harsh, but it needs to be spoken." I remained silent. My father's words echoed in my mind. "If you press charges against Victoria, this family is done with you." But this time, I wouldn't allow myself to waver. News of Victoria being taken in for investigations spread faster than I expected. One afternoon, while resting at home, I received a call from Aunt Beth, the very person who had unwittingly put me in that awkward spotlight at the party. "Riley, are you sure you want to take this so far?" she asked bluntly. "Victoria is more fragile than you think. She's falling apart." I closed my eyes, exhausted. "Aunt Beth, I'm not the one taking this anywhere. Victoria did that herself. If I stay silent, who's going to protect me and this baby?" Aunt Beth sighed, but said nothing more. The call ended in suffocating silence. 3 weeks later, the court's preliminary ruling came out. Victoria wasn't jailed, but was sentenced to 1 year of probation, ordered to pay for all my medical expenses, and mandated to attend 6 months of compulsory counseling. Most importantly, she was issued a restraining order, keeping her at least 300 feet away from me and my child. I thought my parents would finally step back after everything. But no, they clung to the same excuse that mental health struggles were the reason for Victoria's actions. "She's been depressed since the canceled wedding, Riley." My mother choked out over the phone. "What she did was terrible, I admit. But she needs help, not public humiliation." "And what about me, Mom?" I shot back. "Have you ever considered how I felt nearly losing my baby? Being pushed down the stairs by my own sister over a petty jealousy?" My father interjected, his voice colder than steel. "You're blowing this out of proportion. Every family has conflicts," Victoria confessed. She apologized. "What more do you want? Would you only be satisfied if she ends up in jail?" "No, Dad," I replied, each word as heavy as stone. "I want Victoria to face real consequences, to truly understand that no one gets to hurt others and walk away with just a simple sorry." Marcus sat beside me, silent but steady, his grip on my hand, an unwavering anchor amidst the storm. My mother broke down in sobs as if she were the true victim. "You'll regret this, Riley. The whole family will turn their backs on you because you're pushing your own sister down this path." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say when the truth had been twisted so completely. I quietly hung up, feeling an unexpected sense of relief, far stronger than any hollow justification they could offer. On the day of Victoria's sentencing, I didn't show up. Not because I was avoiding it, but because for the first time I had no desire to see those pleading, accusatory looks from the people I once called family. After the hearing, Aunt Beth called me again. This time, her tone was different. No scolding, no pleading. "Riley, no matter what, I'm proud of you for doing the right thing." I smiled faintly, unable to hide the bittersweet ache. "You know, Aunt Beth, that's something I always thought would come from my parents." In the days that followed, texts and calls from my parents grew sparse. Marcus spent more time with me, preparing for the arrival of our child. He repainted the nursery, meticulously perfecting each trim as if scrubbing away the lingering pain with every soft color. I realized then family isn't just blood. Family is who stands by you when the world turns its back. As for Victoria, she was now facing the consequences of her own actions, and this time, there was no one left to shield her. My son was born on a chilly March morning when the tail end of winter still lingered over Austin. It was a moment I'll never forget. The sound of his first cry echoing through the delivery room, a tiny yet thunderous symphony that wiped away the remnants of those dark, exhausting months. Marcus held my hand, his eyes red but glowing with a light I knew I had been waiting for my entire life. Pure, unfiltered happiness. "Welcome to the world, little man," he whispered, and in that moment, I knew I was exactly where I belonged. We named our son Ethan. 3 days later, just as Marcus and I brought Ethan home, with the gentle beeping of his heart monitors still filling the nursery, a loud knock rattled our front door. I knew immediately it wasn't the neighbors. Marcus opened the door, Standing on our porch were my parents. My mother held an oversized gift basket filled with newborn items, tags still intact. My father stood behind her, gripping a bottle of wine and a large stuffed bear, both painfully out of place in this moment. "Riley!" My mother's voice was unnaturally cheerful, as if the past 4 months of threats, tears, and Victoria's court case had never happened. "We heard you had the baby, so we had to come right away. Your father said we couldn't miss this special day as new grandparents." Marcus positioned himself firmly in the doorway, unmoving. His voice wasn't loud, but every word was razor sharp. "I think you should leave." My father frowned while my mother looked past Marcus, pleading. "Riley, darling, let's not make this harder. Today is a happy day. You had Ethan. The family should be together. Let's put the past behind us." Holding Ethan close, I looked at them through the window. My son stirred, his tiny hand wrapping instinctively around my finger. That fragile grip reminded me of one thing. I would never allow anyone to hurt my family again. "I already gave you both a chance." Marcus's voice deepened. "A chance to apologize to my wife, to protect her. But you chose to defend Victoria. You turned your backs on Riley when she needed you most. And now, because this little boy is here, you think you can pretend none of it happened?" My father's grip tightened on the gift basket, his lips pressed into a hard line. "Our grandson was just born. Marcus, you have no right to keep us from seeing him." Marcus laughed, a dry, bitter sound. "Wrong, Mr. Henderson. This is my home, my family, and I have every right to decide who gets to walk through that door." My mother's face flushed, her voice rising. "Riley, you've been silent this whole time. Are you really going to let your husband insult your own parents like this?" I stepped forward, cradling Ethan tighter against my chest. The pain from my surgery still throbbed, but my steps had never felt steadier. "I've held my tongue long enough, Mom. But when your daughter nearly dies and you choose to protect the one who hurt her, it says everything. You call me heartless for pressing charges against Victoria. Have you ever stopped to consider who was truly heartless when she pushed a pregnant woman down the stairs?" My mother's face drained of color, but she wasn't done yet. "Victoria is getting therapy. She's changed. Riley, you can't throw away the whole family over one mistake." "I'm not throwing anyone away," I said calmly. "I'm choosing to protect myself. To protect Ethan, I won't let him grow up in a family where hurting others is just a mistake to be overlooked." Marcus silently placed his hand on my shoulder. "We've thought this through, Mr. and Mrs. Henderson. If you continue to intrude on our family's peace, I'll file for a restraining order." That statement hit like thunder. My father's eyes narrowed. My mother stood frozen, her lips trembling, but speechless. I knew this was the harshest blow. All their lives, they believed they had the right to step into their children's lives whenever they pleased. "But not this time. I'm asking you both to leave now," Marcus said firmly. "And don't come back." They stood there for a few more seconds, disbelief etched across their faces. Then my father turned sharply, my mother stifling her sobs as she followed. The gift basket and stuffed bear were left abandoned on the doorstep. Without a word, Marcus bent down, picked up the basket, and quietly set it beside the trash bin by the garage. The door closed behind him softly but with finality. I held Ethan close. My eyes blurred with tears, but my heart felt astonishingly light. My family, my real family, was right here in this small house, and everything else could stay outside that door forever. The next morning, before the early sunlight had a chance to dry the dew on the porch, Marcus had a security team installing cameras around the house. I stood by the window, holding Ethan in my arms, watching him meticulously check every blind spot, every frame on his phone screen with his usual caution. We can't control what others think, but we can control who gets to be in our lives, Marcus said, answering the question I hadn't even voiced. I nodded. For the first time in months, this house truly felt like ours. No more fake sympathy, no more late-night phone calls filled with pressure. Just the three of us, small, but enough to be called a family. That afternoon, while Marcus rocked Ethan to sleep in the glider, I stepped into the backyard. The lavender pots I'd planted during my pregnancy were still blooming, soft and resilient. I sat down, gently brushing my fingers over the petals, letting their delicate texture calm my heart. It had been a long journey from enduring in silence to finally facing the truth. There were times I feared I was being too harsh for drawing clear lines with my own family. But no, sometimes love needs boundaries. Victoria chose to push me out of her life with her own actions. My parents chose to turn their backs when I needed them most. And for the first time, I chose to put myself and my little family above the so-called obligations that had chained me for so long. No more threats of being disowned, no more crocodile tears under the guise of family ties. Now they were just distant echoes behind a door firmly closed. That night, as we soothed Ethan to sleep, Marcus pulled me close, his voice deep but warm. "I know you never wanted it to come to this, but you did the right thing, Riley. You stood up, not just for yourself, but for our child." I rested my head on his shoulder, listening to Ethan's steady breathing from the cradle beside our bed. Each breath was a reminder that this peace was earned through choices that were anything but easy. The next morning, my phone notified me that the security system was fully activated. A simple message, yet it meant more than 1,000 reassurances. "Your home is protected." I smiled. Yes, this wasn't just a house, it was a home. A fortress Marcus and I had built together, despite the fractures caused by blood ties. The days that followed passed in simple yet fulfilling routines. No more accusatory messages, no more malicious gossip. Somehow, my family learned to keep their distance, maybe out of fear, maybe out of pride, but that didn't matter anymore. We invested our time where it mattered most, lazy mornings watching Ethan stretch, peaceful afternoons laughing at his attempts to babble, "Da, mama." That's what I wanted to protect. One day, Marcus asked me, "Do you think your parents will ever truly understand?" I simply shook my head. "That's not important anymore, Marcus. What matters is that I understand who deserves to stay and who needs to be let go. We didn't need to say anything more. This isn't a story of revenge, nor a plea for recognition from those who never valued me. This is a story about learning to stand tall and protect what truly matters: peace, self-respect, and the family I chose." Riley's story isn't just a tale of betrayal by blood, but a brave journey of setting boundaries with toxic relationships. In real life, many endure pain out of obligation, forgetting that true family is where respect and safety exist. Riley chose to protect herself and her child, even at the cost of temporary loneliness. But that choice brought lasting peace, a lesson in self-worth, and the true meaning of family.